Welcome to the third mini lectures in Module 3, focusing on language awareness in practice. In these lectures, we will look at how language-aware teachers plan, teach, assess, reflect, and collaborate. 1. Planning. Once you have a clear understanding of your learner's language profile, this will help you to build language support into your lesson planning. For many teachers, it means designing the various steps of the lesson in a way that will achieve the lesson content aims, and then reviewing the lesson plan with a specific focus on academic language. Learning objectives for content and language should be clearly set out alongside each other. 2. Teaching. As well as carefully considering the language demands of your lesson at the planning stage, you should take extra steps during the lesson to be sensitive to the potential language needs of your learners. These techniques might include thinking aloud and describing what you are doing, using body language and gestures, adding visuals or diagrams, and repeating or saying something in a different way using specific examples. It is important to give learners time to process information and respond when you are asking them a question. Many teachers already use some of these techniques, but deliberately focusing on them can result in a more planned approach to language awareness. 3. Assessment. Based on the learning objectives, it is important to plan assessment opportunities to provide useful feedback on the learning process. Assessment outcomes need to be clearly linked to the learning objectives, and students need to understand the assessment criteria and what success in a particular task or assignment looks like. Give students feedback on their language as well as their understanding of a subject. This sends a message to students about the values of language as a tool to communicate their ideas and also make sure that language learning progresses. 4. Reflection. Reflection requires you to critically analyze your teachings with the aims of reaching a new perspective, modifying your attitude when necessary, and trying new approaches. When you focus specifically on language as part of this analysis, you can evaluate how well the support strategies you are using are working and what you might do differently to improve the language support you give to your students. 5. Collaborations. The English department can support learning in other subjects taught through English by becoming better informed about the language demand students face in other lessons. Content teachers can help by advising English language teachers about the kinds of material and topics they are covering. This is not the role of the English language teachers to help students understand subject concepts from other disciplines. However, they can help prepare students for these by developing useful language structures, vocabularies, or strategies for reading academic texts, for example. Now, let's watch a video of 2 teachers discussing how they support language through cross-curricular collaborations in their school. Could you try any of these approaches in your school?
Firstly, teachers can work in collaboration to support learning by agreeing that there is a clear need to develop language awareness, and also to agree that they need to support their learners. Once that has been achieved, established, then obviously they can move on and they can share resources, they can share good practice and communicate. But the basis for everything is understanding the need to be aware of your language and also to support your language, to support your learners in slightly different ways than other learners who are taught in their first language. A great way for teachers to work together is perhaps for English teachers to plan delivery together with subject teachers. So for example, in history you would need past tense, and you would need to make sure that past verbs are used for past events, which can be addressed in English lessons. That way, combining identifying the language and combining delivery that way will obviously ensure that those skills are encouraged and developed, and our learners will benefit then. Another example of working in collaboration to support learners is perhaps cross-subject planning. So the first thing that needs to be done is to identify an overlap between subjects. For example, between economics and maths, or between accounting and maths. Subjects like maths cover statistics, mean, medium, extrapolation, and all those would be useful in whether marketing or economics. So once you've established the overlap, you can then decide whether resources can be produced together, or whether resources can be shared, or perhaps a joint glossary can be produced for the benefit of the learners. And that would make delivery easier for learners and more effective overall. Another way to work in collaboration to support our learners is perhaps to make sure that time is allocated to discussing different strategies in team meetings, and also to make sure that good practice is shared. This, coupled with peer observation, is obviously a very effective way of improving support for learners. We found that perhaps peer observations are one of the best ways to extend your range of strategies and learn something that perhaps you may never try yourself. However, seen and delivered successfully by another teacher may encourage you to do it in your own classroom as well.
One way in which teachers can work collaboratively across departments is simply by having conversations. That's how schools work generally. Just about what types of language approaches have been covered so far in different subjects. So has the history department, for example, done work on the evaluation of certain resources? Has the science department done work on how to write up methodologies for experiments? Another way to work across departments is by showcasing some of the work that your students have been producing. Because this is one of the most challenging things in a school. How can I, as a geography teacher, actually know and see the work that my students have been doing, perhaps in biology or in English or in Italian lessons? So this could be done simply by wall displays of work in very prominent places, perhaps in a school reception area or in a main corridor, rather than just contained within the classroom itself. There are lots of other ways of doing this though digitally, and as publishing digitally is now so easy, and as long as you have the basic technology resources to start with, potentially this is completely free to do, there's no reason why many schools can't be showcasing their students' work online. And that way, departments can learn from each other. We can see, perhaps not necessarily the difficulties that students have had in the process of the use of that language, but we can certainly see the outcomes that they have.
Checklist. If you are new to language awareness, it will help to ask yourself the following question about your teaching practice. How can I better understand the language profile of my learners? Teachers have a good understanding of learners' language experience in school. This is based on how the curriculum is organized and through which languages, teachings, and learning take place. However, it is important to understand the linguistic background of your learners and their experience of language outside school. This will help you to offer individual teachings and make the most of your students' existing knowledge. How am I going to include language support in my lesson planning? It is through language that learners assess the content of the lesson and communicate their idea. As a result, language is something that all teachers need to think about at the lesson planning and preparation stages. It is important to design a lesson that will achieve the content aims, and then to go back and review each stage of your lesson and the activity you have planned with a focus on language. How will I scaffold language in my teaching? It is important to scaffold learning by providing guidance and support that challenges students based on their current ability. This will help learners to gain confidence and independence in using new knowledge or skill and develop their understanding in stages. How can I provide feedback on language as well as content? It can be difficult to know when and how to correct your students' language. It is important to try a balance between helpful feedback that allows students to improve and overcorrection, which can hinder the flow of a lesson and demotivate students. How can I reflect on my teachings? Teachers who continue to develop their teaching practice learn from reflecting on their experience. You are always learning simply by doing your job. However, this is greatly helped by reflection, which is a fundamental part of teachers' development. How can I learn from others? Teachers who work together with colleagues in their department and other departments encourage a more integrated approach to supporting students. That is the end of the third mini lectures in Module 2, Building Language Awareness. So far, through 3 mini lectures in this module, we have come to understand some basic theories related to metacognitive awareness, language awareness, and real teaching practices of a language-aware teachers. If the first module focuses on the contextual aspect of language input, this one focuses more on the detail of the language within that context. I hope that after this series of videos and a lot of discussions and reflection activity following, you can better understand the importance of language awareness, as well as some techniques for helping learners become aware of language form as they practice language in context. Thank you for watching and goodbye.